Welcome back to another segment of The Professional Place. I am your able host, Dr. Jacqueline Molina, and today we will be exploring professionalism within the early childhood sector. Stay tuned to hear from our early childhood teacher and parent about their experience with professionalism. Educators, according to DABLE 2019, are professionals that consistently demonstrate high standards of personal and professional conduct. At the early childhood level, these professionals offer qualitative services to children, families, and the community, demonstrating their regard for child development, their adherence to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and their love for young children. To elaborate, on a daily basis, early years practitioners use what Goodfellow 2001, as cited by Harwood and Taconic 2016, describes as their diverse skill set to provide children with a comprehensive education. After all, as duty bearers, these educators must see to it that children get an education that is all-encompassing, developmentally appropriate, and diversity-friendly to meet their needs. Today we will talk to educator Kimberly Zito and parent Marybeth Alvaran to hear about their experiences with professionalism within the early childhood sector. Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
So would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Hi, my name is Marybeth. I am a mother of two. My oldest son is about to be 7, and I have a younger daughter who is 2.
Alright, so let's jump right into it.
Sure.
So my first question to you is, how would you define an early childhood educator?
To me, an early childhood educator is somebody or a group of people that teaches children that's pre-elementary school age.
What are 5 traits you think that every early childhood educator should have?
Patience, definitely patience. Because obviously kids are kids and they get rowdy or they just have bad days, and definitely patience is the big one. Kindness, obviously, because kids react better to kindness, and integrity of what you do as a teacher. Trustworthiness, because we are relying on you guys to help us with their education. Understanding. Yeah. Understanding.
So why those 5? Why did you choose those 5?
Well, I chose those 5 because obviously we need patience for little younger children. Kindness, because everybody especially the younger kids react better to kindness, I believe. Understanding that the fact they are young. Trustworthiness and integrity.
So considering all of this, with your experience with your child's center, could you provide me with an experience that you had that you felt was one unprofessional and then another one that was professional?
Well, the center that he went to was they were very good. There wasn't really anything that I could say bad about them that was unprofessional, but I could say they are very professional, because one time I asked my in-laws to go pick him up. But my mother-in-law is a very hard woman to handle sometimes, and they didn't understand why they can't just, grab my son. But I didn't know at the time, because he is my first, and, that was the first time I had to deal with that. And they pretty much just called me up and hey, just for future reference, you have to, make us aware that someone else is picking him up. Just for security,
Yeah,
which
that's
I understand.
protocol.
Yeah, which is understandable, which, communication obviously is key, which is, I like that about there.
Okay, so you found that to be very professional.
There was really nothing that I haven't interacted anybody from that facility or any, childhood educator to be unprofessional.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah.
Those interactions, how have they affected you on a personal level?
I have a lot of trust in them. Because obviously, they wouldn't just give my child away to, even though they're in a list, they're we don't know this person, or,
Right.
And the fact is, my child, he was at 4, I think of the time, and he was already reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm oh, that's really, it's neat, because I think, the pledge is, important.
So it's interesting that you're telling me that, though, because my next question is, what role do you think that teachers play in the lives of children and the lives of their coworkers.
Well, they're also role models, like, how we are to our children. They see them 8 hours a day, and they're pretty much like a role model to how to behave.
Yeah, and to their coworkers.
Coworkers, teamwork is definitely a big thing, and then knowing, your role in a place of these children or whatever, and being able to work together to help these younger children out.
Now, this one, what do you think that early childhood teachers should be teaching young children? I know you got into it a little bit, but could you expound on it? What should they be teaching?
Accountability is a big one to me. Obviously, making them accountable to being respectful and listening and all that. Even though as parents we should be teaching that early childhood. The teacher should also enforce that in the classroom.
So there's that consistency both at home and at school.
Yep.
I totally agree with you. So considering all your experience with the early childhood centers, and he said first he was at a center and now he's in first grade, right? What would you change if you could change 2 things about the entire sector? What are 2 things that you would change? Based on everything you've seen and experienced with your child this far, what are 2 things that you would change?
More activities, not as much work, but something that they as a family unit can do together. So because when I was younger, I was the oldest of 6, and I was pretty much doing my own work or helping my siblings out, but there was really no accountability from my parents to do This forces them to okay, well, it's 5 minutes of an activity that I have to do with my child.
Okay, so maybe like sending home activities where they ask them questions that only parents would be able to, or
an older family member, yeah.
What change do you think sending these things home would cause?
More interaction with children. I think busy lives and work and all that stuff, and then just taking the 5 minutes for to do something with your child. Nowadays, technology and all that, we're losing it.
You're losing that social interaction. Yeah.
One-on-one and all that. Pandemic going around, and guess what? We're in front of a screen.
Yeah.
But at least maybe we can do a Zoom or something with both parents and the children is with Right.
So it's creatively using the technology instead of just using it for its basic use, just to see each other and talk. You could have other ways for them to interact.
Yeah.
Parents, guardians, caregivers, educators, all should have one thing in common: the desire for young children to grow and develop optimally. Considerably, parental involvement and participation, as Lauren 2008 posits, is crucial in early childhood, emphasizing that parents who cooperate with teachers favorably contributes to the school's scaffolding initiatives. Equally, educators who collaborate with parents promote and ensure consistent learning. All right, welcome to the show. Could you kindly introduce yourself to our viewers?
My name is Kimberly Zito, and I have a master's in early ed certification from Wilson College in Chambersburg, PA.
Thank you. All right, so let's jump right into it. Our first question is, how would you define an early childhood educator?
Basically, somebody who teaches kindergarten through 6th grade or pre-K.
What 5 traits would you say that an early childhood educator should possess?
Patience. Patience, and more patience. I think you need to have a trait of self-sacrifice, because it definitely takes time and energy. Flexible. Plan A is nice. Usually you're on plan B or C by the end of the day.
True.
Diversity, you have to be able to teach in different ways, because some kids are hands-on learners, some are reader learners. Obviously team player, because you have the kids, you got the parents, you got administration, you have other co-teachers and teacher assistants in the classroom, and so even though you're the teacher, it's not really your shower, your room, or all your control.
True. Very very true. We have to
So-
work with others.
Right.
I want to get in a little bit into professionalism within the early childhood sector. So, in your experience, what is your most memorable moment of professionalism?
I guess I had one that's coming to my mind where like an administrator backed me up. I guess per se would be like against the parent. It was a student who was an learning support kid, but it was more a behavior learning support, and he tended to, during work time, not want to work. So I had him do his work like during recess time. The mother was very upset that I set the bar for her son that if you're going to play during work time, then you're going to work during playtime. And like the kid was really excited that he was getting like these 80s and 85s on the study island work, that he could do it. But the mom wasn't happy like I was holding from recess. So long story short, the administrator, and the teacher and the parent, like they all got together, and like the principal backed me in saying that it was okay to have set that bar for him, that he had to do this work and then he could have his playtime. Yeah, the principal was professional in backing me up to challenge that kid and push him to his own ability.
Let me ask you now then, what is your most memorable experience with unprofessionalism?
Unprofessional one, this was a weird one. It was a kindergarten class, and it was when I was doing a long-term sub position before I was full-time teaching. And there was a little girl who wanted pink scissors. As I was passing out scissors, she didn't get pink scissors because there were no pink scissors, but she was very upset and flipped tables over and threw chairs and trash cans and just went into a complete and total rage. And I kind of had all the kids in the corner behind me, and like another teacher came in the room, and then this nurse came in the room, and like the nurse like dragged the girl by her feet like out the door. Well, I come to find out that this nurse wasn't like a regular nurse anyway. She was like a sub nurse.
Okay.
But the other teacher that came in the room was a regular teacher from across the hall, and they said nothing, and I was like, what is going on? And I was like, okay, and like because I think I was subbing for like I think a week or two on that position, but I just thought that was probably could have been handled in a much better way.
What has both of these experiences, how have they impacted you personally?
I learned that within the schools there are proper ways of physically restraining kids that need to be restrained, and then there's got to be times that people don't like your way of teaching. Just the way there's people that don't like your way of parenting, or they don't like your way of this. But I always try to do what is best for my particular kid, that one child.
So from your perspective now, what role do educators play in the lives of their students? And what role do they play in the lives of their co-workers?
For some students, you are like their everything. So like you are their every day.
Their stability.
Right, thank you. Their stability. You are their constant in their life. For some students, like you're their counselor, because they come to you like, Mom and Dad were fighting again last night and I couldn't sleep because of this or that. And, some days you're their teacher and you get to wear a teacher hat. But most days, like, you're their counselor, you're their stable, you're their nurturer, you're their, like a teacher wears many hats. It's not just ABCs and 1, 2, 3. And with coworkers, of course, you're just another person to bounce off ideas and a supporter.
What is it that you think early childhood educators should be teaching young children, especially in this time, considering all that's happening with COVID? And
like that's just changed so many things. I think, again, falling on flexibility. Like you have to teach personal one-on-ones and thank yous and set time aside and like the things that
I was thinking the
my
same.
older.
So with that said, what would you change if you could? Like 2 things you could change within the early childhood sector.
I would take all the computers completely away. I'm not a fan of the technology as much as it is being used at all. Simple things like math, we used to do math on paper, and so when you're working out your work on paper and you make a mistake, I'll be like, oh, well, 3 plus 1 is not 5. That's why you made that mistake. Where now they do everything on like a doodle pad on the computer, and then they just hold up their answer, and you're like, that's the wrong answer. But you can't tell what they did because the doodle pad is gone.
That is a good point.
Like, I can't even see where their track of brain is going to like see where they went off path. Right.
So if I'm comprehending you correctly, you're saying take out the computers, your first change, and push more for in-person interaction. Okay, so that's all our questions for today, but I will leave you with the last word.
Good luck to you.
The teaching never falters.
Finishing
Thus,
school.
they must see to it that they are answering their call to provide children with developmentally appropriate learning experiences while supporting families as much as possible. Equally, effective collaboration between early childhood professionals must be promoted and upheld to contribute to their institution's mission and vision. After all, as the National Association for the Education of Young Children 2016 posits, partnership and collaboration between school, families, and the community benefits all involved.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us, and join us again tomorrow for the next segment of The Professional Place. Bye bye.